Welcome back, Rage Nation. Got myself Pete here.
That's not really exciting.
We got Senior Dixon.
I don't think that's appropriate.
And we got Monsieur Leopard.
Explorers deserved it. No.
Absolutely.
I was disgusted. I cannot believe they've done this.
Why is wacky? Why is that good? It's just nonsense.
I disagree on that. That's not possible.
We're getting the band back together. We're on a mission. Yeah.
Now we've got a whole new list of things to complain about.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Got myself Pete here. And of course, with us, we got Monsignor Dixon from the land of Puerto Rico. And joining us today, we got gentleman Jim. Jim, how you doing, my friend?
You know, any better and I'd be twins. How about yourself?
You know, I don't know if I've heard that saying before, but I like it.
Yeah, never have I heard.
And Jim plays a little bit of everything. He has some of the gaming ADHD, like myself, and kind of like Dixon. Dixon hops around just as much as I do.
I did that for the podcast. Usually I stick to one.
But we all settled today. We're going to talk about Rasputina. And I don't know about you guys, but I hear a crap ton of people talking about how they want to get into Raspi right now and how excited they are for a lot of the new Ashes models and how they're going to impact the keyword. It's like, it's a contagion almost with how much I'm hearing Raspi.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's specifically because I guess it's probably the most busted model of Ashes is a Rasputina model. Well, it's a Rasputina / Marcus model.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Very good. It is a good time to play December.
Yeah, which is, and honestly, December is kind of one of those things, right, where they've had some solid pieces in the keyword, and they got a nice title. The original got buffed a little bit, and then it seemed like something was missing, just something to kind of really get a payoff. And they have two models now that just you can get some sick payoffs with, which is what I'm really excited about.
So good. It's so good.
But before we get into that, make sure that you guys are checking us out. You can do that by going on to the Rage Quit Wire YouTube channels. We also got the Discord that's always popping off. Got people from all around the world talking, even when I'm sleeping. And my wife wonders why I'm looking at my phone. And I'm like, I promise it's nerd stuff. It's not another girl. It's okay. But, but yeah, those Australians and those New Zealanders, they'll be chatting while you're sleeping, man. Also, if you want to support us directly, you can do that at patreon.com/ragequitwire, where you can support us. And when you support us, you get cool things like you can hop on the recording while we do this live. You can get extra content early. And then I also have been doing written battle reports for some of the games that I've been doing for patrons. And they've been liking that. I just take like screenshots while I'm playing the game, screenshots of the pool, do like a write-up for every turn, and they get to enjoy that. I've done that about 3 or 4 times now for them. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then
it also helps you.
It does, because it gives me some like reflection on the game for sure. And then, yeah, if you also buy stuff directly from Weird, you can use our affiliation link at Give Us Your Money, Please. Thank you weird.com/ragequitwire. And that helps put a little bit of buffer on my wallet, making sure that I don't go broke buying all these Ashes of Malifaux models. So, not a lot, but a little bit is appreciated.
This guy.
So, Arcanist, yeah, they got a lot of good keywords, and Rasputina is one of them. Dixon, you played her before she got the new toys. What do you like about her keyword in general? Not just talking about like the new stuff and like how it works, but just in general, why did you like playing her?
I mean, it's kind of weird because it was just the flexibility. Back in GG3, you needed to be at specific place, stand and fight.
Yeah, and
she could move around anything. She could move around your pieces, the enemy's pieces. She could slow you down at the same time she was doing that. So, and she was like fairly hard to kill because she could put blocked, terrain in front of you, run away, get shielded by doing so. So, yeah, like I really enjoyed that out of her. I did not think that she was like A tier though. I just enjoyed every aspect of her, how she looks, how she plays. Like, yeah, she was just like shy of like getting to the A tier.
Yeah. What about you, Jim? What do you like about the December keyword in general?
It's a couple things. I agree with you, Dixon. I think she is maybe in the top of the middle of the Arcanist keywords in terms of raw power, especially back in GG3 when Damien was running roughshod over
Oh,
the
yeah.
meta. People weren't playing her because why not Damien?
Exactly.
Or why not May and Hoffman?
So, and I would sorry to intercede quickly on that. And that actually, I think it's based on player and flavor because I did think that she was better in some aspects than some of the masters that you're saying. I'm not saying
Mhm.
she was, again, I just want to point out it's like
Sure.
she did have places,
She had some
but,
spots.
and it was based on the player. Anyway, continue.
Absolutely. No, I concur, and I think that's kind of to your point, Pete. Arcanists have an incredibly deep bench, and it's really hard to find a master there that you can't get use out of. But for me, what I like about December is it is a keyword that you can play pretty self-contained and have success with. It's no surprise to folks who see me post everywhere that I like keyword play. So I like how internally consistent the synergies that December has, um, versus a keyword that goes more into the versatiles or the out of keyword hires. That said, December has some really great tools available in versatiles and out of keyword hires that we'll touch on later that should not go without. You should keep them in your bag if you're going to play December competitively.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really woke me up to December before the good models came out was I had never seen December before Dixon randomly just decided to play her. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I'm getting wrecked by this like blessed to December model that I didn't even know was a model. I'm like, this model, I don't know where it's been, but it's freaking good.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
on top of that, he was playing the title for Rasputina. So he's attacking me through ice pillars with a melee attack, kidnapping my swine curse because I was playing whizbang. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
what is Wong supposed to do with this? So it's like everything's slow. I'm
Yep.
getting pushed
Mhm.
around. You're eating my stuff that I'm trying to, damage myself. And I was just very upset about it. I was like, I thought this keyword was supposed to suck.
So, and to explain a little bit, we talked about this before in the podcast. We played one of the first few games that he played against Rasputina. He had like no respect for her,
Nope.
like none.
Nope.
So he threw all funds up there in the middle of freaking nowhere with like cover, and I'm like, in quotations, heavy
Mhm.
quotations, cover, because like
I
Rasputina
didn't even
doesn't
know
care
you could
about that.
target things through the ice pillars, so I'm just out
Mhm.
here all googly eyed, not knowing what's going on.
So yeah, so I was like, oh, he's by himself. He already activated, and I have like three more activations, and two of them are beaters. Activate Rasputina, drag Alphonse all the way to like where my beaters are, fully like they had all their actions, everything, and he was just like, "What is this? How can you do that?" I'm like, "Did you not even read the cards?" It's like I've
Oh,
never seen Rasputina
dude,
before.
there was there was a bridge, Jim. So you'll appreciate this. I'm gonna wait for you to drink. You might spit out your drink.
All
I was
right.
sitting there playing Alphonse. Alphonse was up there, probably trying to scheme or something. All of a sudden, the blessed leaps up there, tosses Alphonse off the bridge like it's mankind in the Hell in a Cell match, getting tossed
Oh
by the
no.
Undertaker, kills him as he splats on the ground, I'm pretty sure. And I'm just like, because I didn't know that the Blessed had a 2-inch push just happening. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, yeah, Dixon just outclassed me. I did not respect this. I'm
Yeah,
upset now.
yeah. It was like 100% is like lack of respect.
Oh, yeah.
Because the
Mhm.
thing is, after that game, I think we have one more game, and then you play Ma, or was it Ma like immediately
Oh, I
after?
played Maw 2 India and wrecked
No,
the
no, 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 no.
crap.
The first time was Ma one
Yeah.
when you were like serious. It's like, okay,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna beat the tar
All
out
right.
of
We're
it.
slamming the real keyword on the
Yeah,
table.
and then it still didn't stick because Ma one was not a good matchup for Raspy.
Yeah, it was a little, had its challenges.
Yeah, and then that was a big issue. Like, it didn't. end with like a giant loss. I think he lost by like 3, maybe 2 points.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like
Mhm.
it was significantly better than the first game that we played.
But then Ma 2 put the pain train
Then
down.
I think it was like third or fourth game. You're like, all right, fine, I'm gonna give a try to Ma 2, and then you're like, oh my god, this is the best. I'm immune to like three
I
quarters of your
took the
stuff.
ice golem, I threw it down a hole,
Yep.
and then it was in the middle of a pit trap next to Spark, so it had hostile work environment, so it couldn't be rescued. And then the whatchamacallit, the
And
I don't know.
your anti-hazardous taking damage aura from your master, like your master.
Yeah, and then I ended up killing you with the robot.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah,
That was fun. I had fun that game.
So that was an evolution. That's actually a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier. She does have bad matchups. She does have a plays. Is just, you have to be on point. And
but the more I've played her, the more I think that her original versus the title, I think they actually complement each other pretty well.
Yes.
And we'll kind of get into that now, where I think the original is more of a kind of control master.
Agreed.
And a little bit more of like, I'm going to pick the fight where I want. Whereas, the title has kind of like a Scorpion get over here vibe, and I'm going to wreck something and have a good time about it.
or I push my stuff forward, and then they have their full action.
A good alpha capability.
Yeah, they have it's both. You get both. The only weakness, basically, the only two weaknesses, basically, is like it's very reliant on hazardous terrain, and it's very reliant on range. So, like, if you get past that range, they really don't have that many defenses on the title.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about the original first here. So she ended up getting a buff a little over a year ago.
Oh yeah,
and
2 years now.
Yeah, more than 2 years now. Yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah, we are in 2024, aren't we?
Yes.
2 years ago now.
It's so nuts.
And the things that I really like about her, and I actually prefer her over the second version personally. I like what the second version does, and I play it quite often, but I prefer the first version. And the big thing is because it has some card cycling, which I definitely appreciate. Just because sometimes there's garbage stuff and you just want to find better cards. And the other one is the harsh winner. The fact that you can just be like, hey, there's an ice pillar, that model activates, you discard a card or you gain slow.
Or both.
Or if they already have slow, they can't gain it, so they just have to pitch a card.
Yes.
That's
so you can really attack the hand that way. And I love her winter strike gun. I think this gun's pretty freaking amazing. It's really a min 3 gun because you're going to have ice pillars there. And the last thing that I'll say that I like a lot, and then you guys can start getting into what you like or dislike about Rasputina 1, is December's Passage. I love this for an early unpack.
Yes.
Even mid game, sometimes this will get you where you need to go. But the fact that you're just like, hey, you 3 models, hey, I found a secret passage, come this way, and then you just place them. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic. For like I said, it's like a range game. Also, what I wanted to point out is this fun fact: her and Sonya are the reasons why you can't blast off of friendly models.
Oh sure, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like ever since V1, I think V2 still allowed it. I'm not sure.
It did. V2 did. Somer was also guilty of that because he would shoot a Bayou Gremlin and then blast off the Bayou Gremlin.
Oh, yeah. Pierre Ravage back in V1 as well, like ended games real fast.
I kind of like that play style, but I get how it gets gross pretty quick.
No, dude, it had to be stopped. Like, it was that bad. I think the winner of Worlds, or was it Nova, for like 3 or 4 years running, was a guild player playing Sonya on V2. On Malifaux Second Edition. Yeah, it was gross. Like, and I remember hearing like horrible stories, but I never got to see any of his games.
Yeah, that one, not to go too far into that rabbit hole, that one was unique. That was a great example of someone who practiced a list and a master that no one else could replicate the results. And it really goes to show that Malifaux, I think, still in third.
Yeah.
Player skill can take keywords that other folks may look at as a dark horse hire, like Rasputina is, and you can really get some incredible results with.
I see that with Landon, who keeps playing this whatchamacallit list, the Yoko list, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I've seen so many people try to play that list and they just don't play it quite as good.
The quick thing that I was gonna say is, as much information as I got, even though it's very little, it seems that it's higher now. Like player skill is a higher attribute.
Matters more.
Yeah, it's super weird because before you had combos, and the more information I look, the more I see combos top eight, and even players that were not meant to be there.
Yeah.
Whereas now combos don't really get you that far.
Yeah, I think also if we're looking at it, and Jim, I don't know if you can talk us through this a little bit and really tell us some of the gross capacity you can use Ice Mirror. Ice Mirror is pretty good in this gaining
Yeah.
grounds.
Yeah. So I think if we're going to talk about December and we're going to get into the mechanics now,
Yeah.
we really have to understand two fundamental things that are crew wide. The first is what is an ice pillar, and the second is what is ice mirror.
Yeah.
Most of your listeners probably are aware, but ice pillars are height 4 blocking destructible, impassable terrain markers. They're on a 30 mil base. What that means is that when you put that down, your opponent can't sit on it, they can't move through it, and you get cover if you're in the shadow of it. And I won't bore people with the shadow rules right now, but it makes a presence on the board. And Ice Mirror says you can take actions that are non-melee actions as if you're standing in that Ice Mirror spot.
Yep.
And Ice Mirror has an aura range of 8. Sightless Snow, who we'll talk about later, has a similar effect with a less range. But that means that where Rasputina is on the board isn't necessarily dictating what she is able to do to the board. She actually has plus X inches of effect. And these inches can be up to 8 inches for the aura, plus
Yeah, so
1
if
for
you're
the
looking
base.
at her gun, right, Jim, Winter's Strike. So that's a 12-inch gun, but you got to extend that by technically 9 inches because
9.
you have the base of the ice pillar as well. So I mean that's a 21-inch, 3, 4, 5 gun if there's another ice pillar nearby.
Yep.
On a standard deployment, you're 8 inches up. You've got a 29 inches. You're reaching into their deployment zone on standard without moving.
Yeah, but it's more important to say that it's not in a single direction. You basically can change because so listeners,
You're bending the bullet, right?
yeah. So listeners, one of the things that we talk about is like angles of like line of sight when we're talking about things like arc nodes, which is what an ice pillar is in this situation.
Yep.
So if you put an ice pillar around a corner, you can't see her, but I can see you now.
Oh yeah.
And that is, in my opinion, more important than the total distance.
Well, and you can get around, concealment, cover, line of sight with models that are blocking your way.
And that's specifically the reason why I was going to say sometimes it's more important where the ice pillar is than how far it can get to you.
Oh, yeah.
Just to build off that, it is absolutely where the ice pillar is so much. We'll talk more about this, and I guess when we get to countering the keyword. But it is my personal belief that if you're playing December, where and how you put your ice pillars on the board is the first and most important skill to develop if you want to have success.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so easy to destroy them for your opponent. You have to make them work for it.
Yes. And now, this is the... sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to just add, you had asked about specific to this gaining grounds, what's disgusting about Ice Mirror. You know what is a non-melee action that you can take as a model?
Interact.
So there are several strategies in this current gaining grounds that require interact action within 1 inch. You can do that through ice mirrors.
Yes. Actually,
and that
to the listeners real quick, that is the main difference between now in GG4 and before. Before, there was a lot of in base-to-base contact. You cannot arc, interact, base-to-base contact unless he has something like the red library. I think it has a specific rule that allows him to do that, and it's only one model.
Mhm.
So now in GG4, because it says within 1 inch, you get the things that Jim is going to talk about.
Yeah. And to that point, if you interact to drop a scheme marker, there's an FAQ that you can't drop scheme markers through ice pillars. You can't drop bomb tokens through ice pillars.
Correct.
So make sure when you're trying this out to not try and brush up on your FAQs.
Yeah.
Because
well, it specifically is because of that base-to-base contact thing that we just talked about. Is you cannot arc, go through another thing to do an action, and count it as base-to-base contact. They've been very, very clear about that.
Yeah, and this version of Rasputina is also the version that she just puts out way more ice pillars than the title. Because, her ice pillars, you can get 2. And then not only that, you can do it 3 times if you really want to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, putting out a lot of ice pillars with Raspy is never a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you found the right balance, to be honest, both of you guys. Because that's what I struggled a lot. That's the reason why I don't like playing the normal one.
So I usually, turn 1, I usually put 2 down with Rasputina, December's Passage into where I want to be, and then try to take shots.
Okay.
That's usually my turn 1. I'm also turn 1. Usually you don't have to heal too much. So if you bring 2 silent ones, usually they can put out, 2 more, and then the Wendigo can put out another one. So, even though you only do that action once turn 1, you still can easily get like 5 to 6 down pretty easily.
So 2 silent ones. Am I the only one that only played 1? Is that a thing?
I like 2.
So when we get to talking about crew builds, I have been favoring 2 silent ones recently.
In this GG.
In this GG, I have gone as low as 1 silent one with magical training. I prefer the 2 silent ones, and we'll talk more when we get to them.
Yeah, because they also have Ice Mirror, so continuing on with Rasputina and Ice Mirror as her crew, they're also able to interact through whatever ice pillar you put on the board to, vote, to deliver a message, or whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, so for me, Rasputina 1, the good thing is that she has so many lines of play that she can really adapt on a case-by-case basis. So when you're asking how many ice pillars do you put out, I don't have a set number I go for.
Yeah.
It's going to be, all right, what's the board
sometimes
look
you try
like?
to wall off a whole area.
You can wall off a whole area. Does your opponent have anti-marker tech? Well, then I don't want to spend 3 master actions dropping 6 pillars that a bonus action removes. I really try and emphasize, where can I start attacking my opponent's efficiency? Because to me, that's why I would reach for Raspy 1 over Raspy 2. Is Raspy 1, I feel, does a better job of taxing the enemy's actions with easier handing out slow, whereas Raspy 2 is better at just killing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because the other thing for that, like, really hits on that, Jim, is her shockwave that she puts out freeze over. Like, if you get that in a bad area for your opponent and they start, first off, it's a move 14, so most models need a 9 to pass that. And if you fail it, you're just getting slow and staggered. So you're getting 1 less action, and if you're trying to move, it's going to be -2.
And it's important to note that they get both of those conditions as part of the effect, because we're going to talk about a few models later that have an aura that says if a model would gain slow but already has slow, it takes damage.
Yep.
Well, with freeze over, this is where we're starting to talk about those inner keyword combinations. A staggered model that's effectively a move 16 duel. Now you're doing damage if they're failing that move 16 duel. And they're not really going to want to cheat, because what do they get? They don't take 1 damage. but you're going to find there's lots of instances of damage that can build up in this keyword.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ping damage, a lot of attacking or efficiency, discarding cards, and you can really, really benefit from all that. Like when it starts really snowballing, pun intended, you you it really feels oppressive for your. It feels like an oppressive keyword when I was gonna say when Pandora won, when Rasputina won, it's rolling.
Wait, Pandora and Rasputina both make things miserable for the opponents. Dixon, I think this is why we have similar tastes in Masters.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Pandora, and yeah, she does make people miserable. But most of the masters that I like are not like her. Shockingly,
just like pure aggression usually.
Exactly. No, and it works. Like for example, we've been playing a lot of Outcasts, and Pete has faced against Vicky's more than he wants to.
Yeah,
They're fun.
I mean, they're fun though. I like Vix.
Yeah, I just keep like tossing them into the middle of the table and just going ham, and it's so funny. It's like they kill something and heal 4 life, so they become nigh unkillable.
Speaking of Dixon being overly aggressive,
Yeah.
Rasputina 1 also has Sub-Zero Shield. If you have an aggro player, you just kind of like, cool, if you dive into my master, I can just reduce damage to 0.
Thank you for reminding me, because I actually was going to make a big point of that. You have to have them within a certain range of her, right?
Yeah, 2.
Yes.
Yeah, because so quick thing of the reason why I have bad experiences. I think I played like 4 games in a row where I lost bad because every single one of my opponents, and this is Vassal, obviously, so take information from that. Anyway, but every single time you put December on the table, people automatically have terrain removal. At least good players.
Yeah, you got to have it, man.
And this is when I was practicing the first title, which is the reason why I love the second title more.
Right.
How do you deal with tech pieces like that?
So there's a couple ways I personally have approached it. The first is, unless they go ham, they probably have 1, maybe 2 models specifically that have anti-marker tech. So I will start by trying to slow roll where I put ice pillars out.
Right.
Until that model activates turn 1. And then I'm going to try and slow it. You do this with Winter Strike, Stoning for Chill, or Cheating for Chill to get that slow trigger off. And then you start kind of managing that model. If Mad Dog Bracket is slow and stuck behind an ice pillar, he's going to have to spend resources. Your opponent's going to have to spend resources to get Mad Dog out of there and then into position. The second thing is, if I am into a faction that has easy access to good marker removal, like Outcasts, like Guild, like who else has Bulldoze? Like Arcanists, or like Bayou, I'm a really big fan of the Cultgeist. I know not everyone is. Yes, it's a 5-stone minion, so it has 5-stone minion problems.
Yeah.
But you keep a Cultgeist next to Rasputina, it's an ice pillar to her because of its front of card effect, so she could Sub-Zero shield it for 2 irreducible damage to it. Now they have to deal with a 5-stone minion before they can deal with her. And if you're able to manage the threat ranges with slow and putting things in the way, if they have the resources to get a beater to dive you and have a marker removal piece successfully remove markers, how are they scoring points?
Yeah.
And that's where my general playstyle is, to try and aggressively attack their scoring actions with Rasputina, try and manage their marker removal if they have it, and then rely on other elements of my crew to score points.
Yeah, if I'm playing Raspi 1, I generally, and Dixon even did this because Dixon's played a couple of crews, I think, that had like Blow It to Hell and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think the last time that was Jesse. He brought Sadir, who had Blow It to Hell, but
No, but
Dixon, you'll
I
do it
have brought
sometimes.
Mad Dog out of
Yeah.
keyword in Outcast.
But what I
Oh.
do is I tend to spread them out where like a shockwave is not going to be able to destroy more than one. So if I get the trigger to create 2 ice pillars, I'm going to put one way over here and then I'll put one way over there. And that way it's like you can destroy one of them. You're not going to get both of them with one go.
That's
And
fair.
then also, like you were saying, Jim, if I put one next to Mad Dog and he activates, it's like, cool, you're going to get slow. And then
Or
you
the
can destroy the ice pillar, but you got slow.
I mean, because let's be fair. Let's be fair. If you're playing a Mad Dog player, they usually have a ski marker within range, so you can either not discard a card, get fast, get slow, and just have his 2 normal actions, or you can just discard a card and get
Yep.
Yeah.
fast. So
Mhm.
we're talking being fair. Mad Dog is not completely shut out. It's just your point is very valid because that's the mini game that you have to
Mhm.
beat the
Yeah.
opponent so you can win the big
Because
game.
because you're either losing a resource with a card or you're losing efficiency on the board.
Yes.
Or if I'm doing my job and you're already slow, then you're just, discarding a
Yes.
card on top of being slow.
Yeah, you're talking about layering, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah, and to the listeners, we talk about these things all the time, but it's very important to repeat. You win this game basically by layering how much your opponent has to deal with. If your
Yep.
opponent can't deal with all the stuff that you threw at them, then you win.
Yeah, that's just exactly what Jim was saying, where it's like
Yeah.
Rasputina likes an ice pillar next to her, but instead of just having a normal ice pillar, you either now have to deal with this cult geist, which means you either have to push her out of 2 inches or him out of 2 inches,
Yeah.
or you just have to kill the little dude before you got to deal with her. Because I
Mhm.
think you can take 3 hits with the cult geist before it dies, so Rasputina would take no damage.
Correct. And
Effectively, yeah.
and the cold guys also heals himself, which is very
Mhm.
useful.
Yeah,
So yeah, my point was just trying to be honest
sure.
because
Oh yeah,
we,
Mad
we
Dog
can
is
be all
definitely.
positive, but these
And
are
if you
Yeah.
play Raspy, you're going to have to learn how to deal with marker removal
correct.
because it's just going to happen. And you just have to lean into it and just be like, yeah, you brought it, but you
Yep.
need to remove the correct pillars.
Yep, and you do what Jim said, like literally take those steps, and if your opponent can't figure it out,
Jim, I would be so pissed if I brought all this ice marker removal and then you just brought like 3 cult geists and you didn't put any other pillars on the board.
So that is actually if I'm just if I'm expecting, and we could transition into her now. If I'm expecting aggressive marker removal, I really like Abominable. I like Raspy 2 in those scenarios because she doesn't need to spam ice pillars for a lot of her effects. She can set up the ice pillar for her activation as her bonus, and then she can go to town. And also, I just really like any master who enhances the durability of their crew the way she does.
oh yeah, which is so silly because it's all pushes.
So let's get into it.
Let's transition there since Jim did it so beautifully.
Please, but let's not like we can just say is like in general, if you push within 8 inches of her, you get that sweet shield.
But Dixon, how do you push your models in December?
Jeez, you get, the most basic one is charging.
Cult geist.
No. The most basic one is
Basic one is
charging.
charge. Yep, because that's a
Yeah,
push.
you can charge to get a
That
shield.
doesn't count.
Oh,
It does.
absolutely, it does. And then there's call
BS.
guys pushes, and then there's freaking Rasputina herself, and the stupid the Blessed December. You can push a friendly model that has armor, and it still
can.
counts. It's super weird. Like I've done it, and I'm just like, take 2 damage, get out of there, and get shielded.
Snowstorm can do it with his shockwave.
That's exactly right.
Not a model.
Yep.
Snowstorm
And if
sucks, but it does have a push.
He's situational.
Fair.
She is a terrible model, sir.
So I think the big highlights with this one is it still does have Ice Mirror, which is great for Raspy.
Yeah.
But the big thing that sticks out to me with her is that she actually makes acolytes worth summoning and bringing on the board, and they're pretty solid with her.
Yes. Yeah, so for folks so December Acolytes, and I guess we could talk about the minions after we finish going through her card. They're a weird model. They're in her core box. There are tools for the job model that nobody hires.
They're
Which is
the
weird.
worst. They're literally the worst tools for the job models in the game.
And the reason that they're the worst tools for the job model in the game is that for their cost, they are very fragile. And they want to be played within 12 inches of the enemy, which is a perfect range for someone to walk, charge, and punch them in the face. And they don't take face punching well.
No, they don't like
At
it.
all. Yeah.
Abominable solves that problem.
It's kind of funny because like they are the perfect model to murder if you're playing Last Blossom or Free Core. Literally, there's like 4 different keywords that just love one-shotting this model.
It's a lot harder to one-shot them when they have armor.
Yeah, they
which
get
is
armor because
from
now
the
they're the
summon
nice
upgrade.
little ice acolyte.
Yeah.
And this is her Sub-Zero statue's tactical action. It's her only tactical.
Yep.
So that should tell you that this version of Raspy wants to attack. She has 3 attacks and 1 once per activation summon.
I mean,
Yeah, and I know, Dixon, you're a big fan of Northern Winds and then Cold Snap.
you guys are not wrong. She does love to attack, but she loves to attack her friends more than anything. I'm
Pushing
just
your
sorry.
friends around.
Yeah, exactly. Because every single time that she uses her Northern Winds, they get shielded, they get 4-inch push, and better positioning is how you win in this game, in my opinion. At least in GD4.
I do really like the creeping ice trigger.
That is disgusting.
Like, you just you make an ice pillar and you just shackle the model to it till it's removed.
Yeah, they did that thing where they licked the cold pole and their tongue got stuck.
Yes. It's kind of funny because like it's effectively a paralyze on normal models because you can push a model and give them slow, and then push the model again, and then stick them to the ice pillar. And if no friendly model is nearby, then they have to kill it. It's like a more fair version of Doom.
I will say there is a disgusting combo you can pull off with Cold Snap, where if you have Blizzard up with the Ice Golem and you attack a model that's in the Blizzard, you just Rift of Snow it to do 2, 4, 5 damage plus 2 because they're in the Blizzard and you get to move them.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me that because I did that to a couple of.
It's rude.
Yeah.
I think that's the big surprise gotcha for folks who are looking at Abominable for the first time. Her damage, it looks like it's okay.
Yeah.
She got a 2-4-5 versus defense attack and a 1-2-4 versus move attack. That doesn't seem like great damage.
Yeah.
And then, as you guys were talking about, you have access to hazardous damage in the keyword through the Ice Golem. And this is, I think, where I would hire Ice Golem was with Raspy 2. Because that turns your damage profile into 4, 6, 7 on melee and 3, 4, 6 at range.
Yep.
And suddenly you're looking at, okay, those are Nikima level damage.
Yeah. Oh, she. I mean, we made jokes back when I was playing the keyword a lot about the Ice Golem because the Ice Golem can one-shot master some. Oh, not one-shot. You know what I mean? One round a master if they get lucky on the damage. Like I've never seen that a model that can hit so freaking hard that you're shocked that you don't see it more often on the team.
Yeah, and I mean I'm a little down on the Ice Golem right now.
Yeah.
Just because of the gaining grounds and how I played a game against Lance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't even with Rasputina, this was with Sandeep, okay? So I was playing against Lance and I had the Ice Golem with Sandeep too. Lance was playing Shenlong. I went with the Ice Golem, punched something, cooked off Blizzard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the turn, it was literally me and Lance pushing the Ice Golem back and forth into each other's crews because unlike December, Sandeep does not ignore the Blizzard. But luckily, Rasputina, the rest of her crew, doesn't care about the Blizzard. But it was just comical to see the Ice Golem being pushed back and forth through all the interactions.
You're like, oh, hell no.
I don't want him. You take him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think he's the only model that does hazardous damage too.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is weird.
Everything else is either like a condition based or it's just 1 damage.
Yeah, and again, I want to reiterate this
I
model
will
hits
say
like
taking 2 damage when you're in that aura for everything you do sucks.
yeah. I think that was the main reason why I won that game. I won
No,
those games
there
against
was a specific game where you just set
Trixie.
that up and you were like, you're
Mhm.
taking 2 damage for everything you do. And
Yep.
I was playing Maul 1 and I was just like, what in the F is going on?
Mhm.
But and then he
Maul is
has
not dressed for this.
yeah, and then his huge fist can hit you for 5, 6, 8. Again,
Yep.
it's just
Yeah,
yeah,
that's like some Eric and Hannah numbers.
yeah. Those are some outcast
Yes.
numbers.
Yeah.
Those are some
Yes.
outcast damage numbers.
So, since we're really talking about a lot of these pieces,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, like, we could say all this great stuff, but one thing we've completely forgotten is that Rasputina is one of the few ruthless models in Arcanists in both her versions. And I think that is something that really is important tech to remember when you're playing. If you're playing Arcanist as a faction,
Mhm.
to keep that in mind is that if you're going into those terrifying crews, you don't care with her.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Actually, that is one of the matchups that I was talking about earlier in the beginning of the podcast when I said she has a place, and it's
Mhm.
yeah, ruthless. It's a huge thing in some cases.
I don't know how much more like we can really dig in on Raspy herself in either form without really talking about some of the other pieces
Yeah,
that she has available.
let's hit her totem up real quick because this is a weird totem. So
I like the little man.
the Wendigo, he's significant, so he's got that going for him, and he basically can copy different actions from other models. So I don't know about you guys, but I usually just use him for like cheap interacts and also just I'm going to make ice pillars. Usually how I use them.
The thing about the Wendigo is that is like he proves that a low stone enforcer can be good for a whole bunch of stuff. He might actually just be a little too good for his point cost, and I don't want him to change. I really don't.
I
I
don't
think
think
he's
he's changing.
perfect. Huh?
I think
He's
he's fine because he's only 4 hit points, defense 4.
It's
yes.
exactly that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Which is the reason why, like, we're gonna praise him because he is great.
Mhm.
But like,
He's
why are other enforcers that are 4 points so garbage when compared to this model?
I think he just works really well in his keyword.
Yeah, that's the thing. He is an example of design success because he is all about supporting his keyword. And there's like a few things I want to hit on this model specifically. The first thing is December's Pawn as a once per turn targeting a model with Ice Mirror. There's only Raspy and Silent ones who do that. But that means that he is your pocket healer because he can copy the heal from Silent One. And he can be another source of ice pillars for, copying Raspy.
Yep.
Fun fact, per Weird's FAQ, when you copy an action but change the stat, the only thing changing is the actual number. Any fate modifiers in the original action carry over.
Yeah, nice.
That it means built-in suits or built-in plus flips. So if you copy Raspy 1's Ice Pillar, for example, or Raspy 2's what's it called?
Ice
It's
Passage
called
or whatever.
Fissure of Frost on Abominable.
Oh, okay.
If you have a moderate tome, you can get those triggers on it. So suddenly your totem is pumping out 2 Ice Pillars for 7 of tomes. That is a really good use of a free action that your master doesn't have to take.
Yeah. And not only that, but you can also get Companion on it. Mm-hmm. So, like you were saying, I mean, Companion's the one where I think you go after a model ends an activation within 6.
Yes.
Yes.
So, like you were saying, you could go with, let's say Raspy's a little low on health. You could go with her, do some damage or set up whatever, then Companion into the Wendigo, copy the heal from the Silent One to then, top off on some healing.
Yeah. I mean, what I think that I have done actually more than once is you hit somebody with Northern Winds. Like, oh, they're not dead. They're like at 1 or something. Like, oh, activate the totem, hit him again.
Finish him off, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like stat 4, but if they're staggered, usually he's up by 1.
It's actually stat 5.
No. The December spawn isn't.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about just going in and biting a model.
No. Usually I'm far away because I want him alive.
You don't want him to die.
Yeah, no, dude, he's great. He's
Oh, yeah.
like shockingly how good he is. And back in GG3, he was like a hidden martyr on crack because you can just like turn 1 you hide him, turn 2 you just toss him into the middle of everything.
Also, some kind of cute tech that the keyword has is you'll see a lot of models that have Grim Feast for a bonus. So if you're playing against Rezzers, December is usually a pretty decent pick for it because you can just remove corpse markers on command.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about Grim Feast for a second.
Okay.
This is one of the weaknesses of the keyword that as a player you're going to have to be aware of. Because of a lot of your living models have Grim Feast, you don't have another bonus action. And this means that a lot of your minions, unfortunately, feel like they don't have as many actions as a lot of the other models available to you.
Doesn't the title make ice pillars count as corpses?
Yes.
Yes.
So bad.
And that's useful for getting more Grim Feasts off. But I think it's no surprise that the models we're going to talk about being hired more often than not have a bonus action other than Grim Feast.
Yeah.
So from experience, at least, because I love the title. Grim Feast on these models, when you start actually playing it on the table, it makes you wish that they had hard to kill, because the only way that Grim Feast is actually like good or usable, outside of like trying to remove resources from your opponent, is they're at 1 life. Grim Feast, now you have to hit me twice again. That being said, the number 1 use that I got out of the title's corpses count as ice pillars was the Ice Golem. Ice Golem can go ham, take some damage, and eat all the corpses. And that literally was like the number 1 thing that I used that ability for. And it worked perfectly.
Yeah, I think the first real model, unless you guys have something else on the Wendigo, that you're always going to bring one is the silent one, with one of them with magical training.
Yeah.
In this gaining grounds, Ice Mirror is so good that I think you usually want to bring 2 of them. Just in this GG. Other GG probably 1. This one I think you bring 2. But this is probably the best healer in Arcanist, and it also sets up ice pillars, so it's like exactly what you want.
Yeah, I'm the only dummy that doesn't. Like I sent you guys
Well, you
the
put in
list.
GG3 with Rasputina. I don't think you needed 2 of these in GG3.
Well, no, but like that's the list that I want to play in GG4 once I get around back to like my Arcanist. Remember,
But I think you'll see how good Ice Mirror is in GG4, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is why I want 2 of these."
I don't disagree, but
Or
that's
just
the reason
summon
why.
one since you like the title so much.
So but that's the reason why I put Cedra in that list. Like if you look at just quick rundown real quick because it's fast. It's a title: Wendigo, Bash, Bless of December, Cedra, a silent one without any upgrades, and Miranda and a minor. And there is a theme that I believe works. I think Cedra's ability, that's like an ice mirror, works for everything that we've been talking about. I think the single silent one makes it so that she has a target on her back. And granted, you might convince me to drop the Miranda and put in the second silent one, but right now Miranda makes it so that, in my opinion, Blessed December and Bash are like super dangerous.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk about that out of keyword stuff definitely, because I've played a little bit of that as well.
It's just Miranda. Everything else I said is in keyword.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Silent ones also have a tune, so you can use soul stones.
That's also true.
So that's one of the things I've really rate about them is they're staying back in your backfield because they don't need to move up the board to interact. You have other tools available to be your across the center line to score points or deny points. So these models never have to take a walk action. You can either December's Passage or Cultgeist push or whatever move them if you need to move them. Like, December's not hurting for moving these models. They can dedicate their actions to doing other stuff.
Yep.
The fact that probably when people talk in Arcanist circles about who's the best magical training caddy to hire, you see these out of keyword more often than anything else.
Oh yeah, it's this, the Fire Lady, and the guard from
Sandeep.
Sandeep. Yeah, those are the three guys that always make the conversation.
Jim, I think you have more games with Raspy than I do. Have you ever gotten a lot of use out of the sacrifice to December ability?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of seems like a generally dead ability.
So for me, it's opportunity cost.
Yeah.
To get sacrificed to December, you have to be taking a stat 5 versus defense attack that does 1-4 damage.
Yeah.
You have built-in mutilate, which is great if they're already slow, but then you have a Peacebringer, which is not taking the world by storm. I have gotten use out of the same ability on Acolytes, because when those come into the, when you bring them in,
They got a better gun.
they have their gun does the same damage, but if you're bringing them, it's probably as a summon in Raspy 2, and we've already established Raspy 2 likes the Blizzard Aura. And when you have pull and drag on a 2-3-5 gun, that's actually a 4-5-7 gun because of the hazardous, you actually do kill things with them.
Yep.
I mean, again, they can get to like 5 damage minimum with that combo that you're talking about. I'm just giving you the heads up.
Yeah.
Because mutilate plus the 2 damage, like they can get heinous amounts of damage.
Yeah, the Acolytes can get up there, and that's where I've gotten Sacrifice to December to work.
But not on Silent One.
No.
I mean, Silent One, literally, the best thing that she does is just stay within 8 inches of friendly models and heal and interact whenever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I've been using it, obviously, for the heal, which is just solid, but then also just interacting to get, like, intel tokens, or interacting to deliver a message, or interacting to vote. Just putting them on like a back marker in the ballots. You're like, I'm going to vote, once or twice here. I'm going to heal that model on turn 2. I'm going to vote once up there. It's really flexible because, like we've said, the range is just insane on these models.
Yeah, and she has both actions right there. She can just make the ice pillar vote through it.
Dude, the funniest thing I think I've done with a Silent One is I was playing. What was I playing against? I was playing against something. I can't remember. But there was a fight going on like in a building, like a ruined building. And my Silent Ones couldn't quite see somebody to heal them. So I just created an ice pillar at the corner of the building to see into it and then healed in the building.
Yeah, that angle is what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Where the ice pillar is more important than how far the ice pillar can be.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't even need to walk. You just be like, get your little mirror and be like, yeah, there he is. Got him.
And do keep that in mind. People can go through all of the schemes. Like you mentioned 2 of them already, like deliver the message, and you said cloak and dagger and voting and stuff like that. But there's more that you can actually I can go and do X thing through somebody else. It's just so dumb. It's just so dumb.
It's great. It's wonderful.
You silly Billy.
But so I think we all sound like we're a fan of at least one of these in your list. What is the next thing you guys like to hire? Because I know what mine is, and it rhymes with cheddar.
No.
Does Cedra rhyme with cheddar?
No, it doesn't, but it sounded like it did in my head.
Yeah, I don't think there's a game you don't bring Cedra / Sightless Snow because it's so good.
Before Cedra came out, I not wanting to do it, but I would bring the ice golem. Now that Cedra's out, I don't really see a reason to put the ice golem on the table. It's so sad.
I have thoughts on that, but we'll get there when we talk ice golem.
Yeah.
But yeah, this model, because it's really one model, it just has 2 forms.
Yeah.
there's been a lot of people talking about this across podcasts. You guys have talked about this model before. In fact, when you were doing your like Ashes review of the Chimera December stuff,
Mhm.
you went over this. So I don't know how much we have to go over that ground.
Yeah, I would say, Jim, let's talk real life application here because we have talked a lot
Mhm.
about this model. The main thing that I think is key on this model is that when you don't want to die, you're kind of in Cedra form because you have a sweet
Mhm.
demise. But I think when you're trying to score points, you're kind of in that sightless snow form
Mhm.
because sightless snow can do all of its actions through either a beast or an ice pillar within
Yes.
6.
Yes.
And that's huge because you can just set up some kind of real gross things. But I think talking about application on this and how you've used it so far, not necessarily
Mhm.
looking at the card, because like you said, people have looked at this model. I
Yeah,
think being able to transform into one version or the other, you get a free ice pillar. I think you just have to discard a card.
you do.
And then that sets up so many options for your activation. Like you can just go score deathbeds. You can
Mhm.
um, set up to target through that ice pillar because it doesn't even need to be base to base. It's within 6 of your current position.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then just the attacks are nuts. Like I've actually gotten more use, I think, out of Breath of Frost because
Mhm.
you have some really cool abilities to either coordinate attack or turn into your stag form.
Mm.
Mhm.
And the bonus is just money. The bonus just wins you games.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the frost breath is honestly the main reason why I love her in the title, because the title loves to attack movement. So if you're staggered, it's basically +2 to my stat.
Yeah. So we had a local event that I took and soloed Rasputina to, and Rasputina in the event,
Yeah.
and I podiumed, and it was a lot on the back of this model. You're talking deathbeds. I had the scenario in game where I shifted into sightless snow, dropped through primal runes a scheme marker next to that ice pillar I made, killed the thing next to it, scored the deathbeds, and went on to score 3 or 4 more points.
Yeah.
The fact that when you shape change your placing means that you can place out of engagement. So being engaged doesn't matter for this model is something that I didn't clock until I was actually putting it on the table. And it's just, even if you get it engaged and they're stuck engaged, let's say someone surrounds your model,
Hmm.
you can shift into Cedra form,
Oh yeah.
call of the mountain on yourself, which is a tactical action that pushes a model up to its move.
Yes.
So if you flip a 6, you can walk, air quotes on walk, out of engagement, and then go and continue to score points.
I do want
Um,
to point out something that we keep like kind of like talking around, but not directly. This model is stat 5 on defense and willpower,
mhm.
but and this is a big but. He starts. I mean, she starts with an upgrade, a
Yeah.
chimeric upgrade. So you build your own. It's a build a bear. You build
Right.
whatever defense you need for the matchup. Oh, I'm playing against guns, stealth. I'm playing against a lot of melee, freaking armor or whatever. You know what I mean?
I need
And then
to
Mhm.
I need to scheme, put some wings on.
put some wings on. And she has a trigger on the beast form that allows
Mhm.
her to change it at will
And it's
because it's
built
already
in.
suited. Yeah.
Built in.
So it's ridiculous. Like this model is significantly better than like when you look at it, you're like you would expect somebody like me who constantly talks about a model dying.
Somebody at Weird likes Arcanists.
But this model is like, no, this is great. This like is like a 9 point model at 8. Like it's so good.
It also just has Onward, which is just a great bonus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it has 3 actions.
it has 2
It has
great
more, it has
bonuses.
more than 3 actions. I can promise you that.
Yeah. So earlier I was talking about models that, I use Rasputina to deny points and I have the rest of the crew score points. This is the first part of that. This model is your ticket to scoring a third to half your victory points in a game if you get it down. Um, to your point, Dixon, both forms are defense willpower 5. You can build a bear its defenses. but I feel like it really doesn't want to be in a drag out fight with someone else.
I don't disagree with that, but
It wants to bully a flank real bad.
I think it wants to hide behind a giant alligator.
So that's a huge part of like whenever I'm talking about a model, if a model wants to be at range, I don't care if his defenses are like Angel Eyes. I have said since the onset, Angel Eyes is disgusting, and she's defense 4 in disguise. That's it. She doesn't have stealth. She doesn't have nothing. But the model is designed to be more than 14 inches away from anything, and that alone is a huge defensive boost, right? So when I looked at Cedra, the first thing I saw was like, well, it's a 5/5. What does it have to keep itself alive? And I started going through the motions, and I'm like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Like, what is this?
Like, I'll be honest, I have struggled to put anything other than natural camo on it. Personally, natural camo really does for me what I want it to do. But yeah, so 10 out of 10, I struggle to see a pool where you don't hire one of these.
Yeah, this model goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I would go as far as 11 out of 10 for me. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, and you know what really pairs well, not just with Rasputina, but Sightless Snow and the Cedra. I have a hard time not bringing the Blessed as December ever because I love the model because I have Luther, the alternate model for it. But it's just a really good model. You slap Soulstone Cash on this thing, and it's gonna get you the job done.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue. When you look at December, if you just look at the stat lines, you're going to see a lot of move 4 spread around the crew, and then you come to this model, who has Deadly Pursuit and Leap.
Yep.
Earlier in the edition, this was your sole like cross the center line does things model, and I think that was part of the struggle early edition December had is it only had Blessed to go and try and score points.
Yep.
It really does. You're right, Pete. It does pair nicely with Sightless Snow because as a beast, Sightless Snow can do things through the Blessed, but the Blessed also can now like bully a flank while Sightless Snow's bullying a flank.
Yep.
I mean, you can order each other with Miranda. Like, so you can basically.
Dixon's really excited about Miranda.
Bro, I think I mean the list that I sent you guys has the bear, but the bear is actually like I swapped it out real quick for Miranda. I forgot that it's Miranda turning into a bear after.
Don't worry, Dixon. You don't got to wait too much longer. We're getting there. I promise.
We're getting there.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with any of that. That we're gonna get to that soon. But my point is the synergy that they have just because of their beast in keyword. It's like I love this shift.
Yeah, Miranda slots in there, nice.
From elementals to beast. It's like because I always like that Wendigo look, but they always kept throwing like ice stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the triggers on the Blessed are just insane. Like it has leap, but then you also just have crit strike, pouncing strike, and onslaught. Just probably 3 of the best melee triggers in the game.
You're telling me that this thing hits for 3, 5, 7? What?
No, I'm telling you it hits for 4 because you put Soulstone Cash on it.
Oh, yeah.
What if I told you that you're playing Rasputina 2 and it hits for 6 min?
That is so true. Oh my god. I think I only hit for 4 in the game against Pete, but you're right. That thing can go to 6.
It does. So it does have a 2-inch push. That's just part of the attack. So if you have hazardous, not even from like another model, but if there's like some hazardous terrain on the board, you just go and pull stuff into it and just start beating it to death.
Oh yeah. I've thrown people into lava pools.
Or be like Dixon and throw Alphonse off the cage.
Hey man, it's your fault for disrespecting.
It was fair.
Yeah, and to that point, Pete, you had mentioned Soulstone Cash on this model. I think Arcanists with Soulstone Cash turn a lot of their enforcers into models that punch above their weight class.
Oh yes.
I would say that Blessed with that is one of those models. It looks fairly fragile, and in games where I don't take Soulstone Cash,
It is.
she can go down.
So Dixon is notorious for taking my favorite models and punishing me when I don't put Soulstone Cash on them. He's like, "Oh, you didn't put Soulstone Cash on Blessed?" I'm like, "Does that mean you're going to try to kill it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah."
To anybody that has played StarCraft, it's basically like nuclear launch detected. You're just scrambling after that. You're like, oh god, oh.
But I mean, honestly, it's not a very complex model.
No.
Like Sightless Snow and Cedra, that's a complex model. It's 2 models in one.
Yeah.
You got to juggle upgrades and stuff. This model, you put focus on it, you run it up the board, you eat something, you score points.
And you're on the sides. You don't necessarily want to go into the middle of any group.
Mm-hmm.
You can just like go, like, if this is an entire square, you just like literally skirt around, and it's so freaking fast that it will get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 40 plus 6, it's about 8 plus 10, 18 plus 4, 22 inches in a single turn. It's 22-inch movement in a single turn. And that's just double walk and a leap. And then Deadly Pursuit at the end of the turn.
Pursuit, yeah.
Yeah, it's so dumb. I love this model.
But yeah, so I would agree, Pete. I like hiring this model a lot.
Yeah, and let's keep going down this beast kind of path that we laid ourselves.
Bash.
This is, I don't know, like Rasputina just and is just gonna love this model. Bash is just insane with Soulstone Cash, just with Rasputina.
I will preface this before you guys praise it a lot. So far, I have seen this model flounder. So if you guys have different stories. I've
played this model like 6 times, and I have not lost it yet. The only game that I probably was going to lose it was in our game. We didn't finish Dixon.
Okay.
But we didn't finish that game. The games I have finished, I haven't lost this model because it's surprisingly durable.
Okay. Because I was hunting this model down fairly hard in our game. He was about to die before we stopped.
Yeah. All I really want to say about Bash, because you guys also have talked about him in your episodes about Ash's releases, is that Bash is a good alternative to the Ice Golem as this is the model you want to send up the middle. He's the one that you want to go, okay, this is who you're going to have to get through to get to my squishy ice wizards in the back. He's got 3 attacks, or 3 actions a turn because of Eternal Hunger. He's another Ruthless model. He's got that Frostbite aura we were talking about, where if you gain slow, or you would gain slow, but you already have it, you take damage instead.
Yeah.
He has Chill on his melee action, which gives slow. So with that, he can go up to doing 4, 5, 6 damage per bite.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he is damage. I mean, there's not much else he's really doing for you. Like Blessed and Sightless Snow, they're scoring victory points. Bash is a second part of your damage, distraction, denial play.
He's a distraction Carnifex for sure.
Yeah, the big thing about him from the games that I've played against him, because I haven't been able to play with him yet, was the laugh off. That laugh off actually is a huge deal.
That's why he's like a good, like even in our game, I don't think he would have died the next turn even. I think he would have died shortly after that. But the thing is, he can garner so much attention and just not die easily because he is terrifying. So if they don't ignore that, that might slow you down. He has a lot of healing triggers that he just can get. So he can heal himself throughout it. You also have your silent ones that can slam dunk healing down range. Hold on. And the biggest thing about Bash is that he has so many ways to get extra AP or extra, shenanigans.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to really move him because Rasputina's crew does such a good job of pushing him up the board before he even does anything. So with Rasputina, Cedra, and the cult guys, you could really get this model up the board before it even does anything.
I was going to ask because, I think if I were to see this model with more games with Rasputin 1, you just gave me ideas. because terrifying. Like you said, you're not gonna go into a December crew and go, "I need my anti-terrifying."
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you actually got enough discard from like the old original version, because the original
Mhm.
version when you activate, what was that called? You activate near
Harsh winter.
yeah. So enough harsh winters will make it so that this model is unkillable after like turn 3.
Yeah.
So
It's really good.
yeah.
But like you said, I think you either bring this or you bring the ice golem.
Mhm.
If you're going to go for a big fatty that you want to, bash it out.
Mhm.
So Jim, tell us about the ice golem and kind of what this big icy boy shines at doing. We've talked about it a little bit.
A little bit. I see. For me, the big difference between the two is that if your opponent is not bringing anti armor, I feel a little more inclined towards the ice golem because armor 2 coupled with soulstone cache means that he is a lot more durable at 9 wounds than bash at 14 because every hit is taking off that 2
Yeah.
at minimum damage. They're both doing comparable amounts of damage with their melees at 3, 4, 6 for the golem. Bash is what, 3, 4, 5 until you add in this frozen club ability. And that's where, Pete, you were talking earlier that the golem gets to ludicrous damage.
Yeah.
Having frozen smash, which is like crit strike but better, and flurry, which the only reason this model has flurry, I'm sure, is because of the pun about flurries, snow flurries.
Ah.
Because there's no reason he should be fast enough to take 3 swings. But we're living in that world, and that's the best world of all possible worlds.
So when I look at the ice golem, I think my biggest question is probably the first one is, do I think there's a lot of anti-armor my opponent's going to bring?
Mm-hmm.
The second question is, am I going to try and leverage Blizzard this game? So if I'm going against a master that traditionally likes to maybe be more central and they don't have a lot of ways to ignore hazardous terrain, I think I'm more likely to bring the ice golem.
Yeah. Yeah, that is 100% in line with considerations to make because Blizzard does more damage overall over the course of a turn than a single punch does. And with Flurry, you can still get 2 punches and a Blizzard out.
Mm-hmm.
The reform from Ice, this is nice to have as far as, they spend resources trying to chunk him down. He activates at 2 wounds and then boop, he's back to full. My experience has been anytime your opponent invests a lot of resources into killing something and then you heal it back up, it goes bad for them. And that kind of ties back into what we've been saying all along, that this keyword is about taxing your opponent's resources.
Yeah.
If your opponent's main beaters are slow every turn, and so every attack they make on the golem that ends up getting healed basically didn't happen,
Yep.
they're wasting their time.
Yeah.
And if they're not dealing with it, he's killing them.
Also, can we imagine a situation where you're playing Raspy 2 and you northern winds the ice golem into your opponent's crew and you're like, oh man, I don't want them to move this ice golem from that position. You can just go ahead and get the tome trigger to basically chain down the ice golem next to an ice pillar. So then you're getting plus, 1, maybe plus 2 damage.
Yep.
I like to imagine that world.
It's a good world.
I'm thinking about what you guys are saying.
You guys are very convincing.
No, because like the thing is like it's giving me ideas. Basically, I'm thinking about what I want to do. I've been like removing and putting Bash back in the list because like I want to, but like it's just, for example, one of the interactions that I like that I know I'm gonna see it on the table is Bash can remove an ice pillar and call it a corpse marker, which will automatically heal him too.
Yeah.
If I have Miranda and I turn into a bear, now Bash has terrifying, harder wound. Yeah, exactly. And cover, basically. So you have multiple ways to layer this model.
I think I think the crux of it really is the question of, do I think my opponent's going to bring enough anti-armor to make this not worth it? And I think that's a tough position as opponent to, because now if I play against Raspi, I'm not I'm not going to invest a lot into anti-armor, because if they bring Bash instead of the Ice Golem, then it's like, well, that's wasted tech. Like, why did I tech that in? So I think that puts your opponent in a nice decision point that they're going to have to decide how much they invest in.
Yeah.
Like, if you're guild, are you going to bring the expert marksman upgrade and then all of a sudden Bash is just on the table?
Well, it's funny you talk about that, because I do feel like this is a good time to talk about the niche application of Snowstorm.
All right, let's hear this. I'm gonna try to hear your apologist, perspective on Snowstorm. Let's hear it, Jim.
Okay, we
All
need
right.
to have like a snowflake report kind of intro for this.
And we have Jim. Jim's here with the snowflake report. All right, Jim, what do you got?
Yeah. All right. So Snowstorm as a model is confused. I say he's confused because he has the same melee that the Blessed of December has, but he does not have leap, so he's not getting into melee as quickly. Right. Now, you can spend your resources pushing him in there with, December's Passage or the Culk, or all the other things we talked about, the tools for moving him around. But you have other things you could be pushing, like Bash or the Ice Golem. Where I think Snowstorm comes in is that he pairs with the Ice Golem very well if you're in a pool where you need to fight in one specific area, which is more of a GG3 thing than a GG4 thing. Reason for that is his December's command bonus action. For a bonus, you can push a model with Demise Frozen Heart. The only model you're usually hiring with Demise Frozen Heart is the Ice Golem. Giving the Ice Golem more movement is where I think this model shines. Middle of the Storm as an aura is cute, and yes, it can be fun for that one Parker player in your meta to have to be real sad when Mad Dog, who has been hired in to blow up your ice pillars, is doing -1 damage to your crew because Snowstorm exists. But you have to stay huddled around Snowstorm. And in this gaining grounds, you really can't afford to be stuck within 3 inches of a 50 mil model for more than turn 1.
I think the problem with if you're going to tech in for Middle of the Storm, you just bring the Wind Golems. So I don't even.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I don't even think that's really a thing anymore.
By the way, you have to pay 2 more points to do that, and I would still gladly do it because the Wind Golem does other stuff. Okay, so I hear you, Jim, but in reality, this model needs an entire rework. It has one good action, and that's it.
I think Jim, I think what you said at the beginning of talking about Snowstorm is accurate, where you're like, this is good, this is good, this is good, but on this one model altogether, it's not a smooth part of your game plan.
It doesn't work. It's like I can give a model armor, hard to wound, and hard to kill, and all of its other stats are like stat 3. I gave him 3 amazing abilities, but it's a completely useless lump of coal. So in this case, Snowstorm unfortunately has one good thing, which is, to like specify to the listener, he has charge through, and he has puncture, and he has a 2-4-6 attack. So technically, in this list, you can, with a focus attack, have triple damage flip. That is the one great thing that this model has. Everything else that the model has doesn't deliver it. It is clunky. Why the limitation that you can only do it to a model with Frozen Heart, but it's another model with a Frozen Heart? So you have a 9-point model that has only 2 actions and cannot target himself to move an extra 4 inches. Or 5 inches or whatever.
I would rather, and I think you'd agree with this, Jim, because I think this is probably how you play a lot of your games. I would rather bring a Cultgeist and use Icy Winds to unpack my crew.
There you go.
I agree because I partially dropped in 2 Cultgeist into my lists shortly after they released, taking the place of the 9-stone Snowstorm. Because earlier you would be taking him for the Ice Tornado ranged attack he has, which is pushing friendly December models. And that used to be his thing, right? His thing was, I push the crew around.
Yeah.
But then Cultgeist came out who do it for a less harsh TN in a wider area. Raspy got a bonus action to move people.
Yeah.
Got a whole title that's all about moving people. So yeah, I would agree, Dixon. I think Snowstorm's in a place where could do with a rework.
Yeah,
but
she needs a rework.
And it's a sweet model. Let's get it on the table, Weird. Let's make it happen.
She used to be amazing, and I think over the years they just kind of like toned down her power, and now she's where she's at. So yeah, no, there's a few models, and I pray that in one of these erratas they just buffed them. The last 2 erratas have been fantastic, in my opinion. I was glad that I was wrong about the 2 models, but there were still models in that group that I was right about, like way too many. But the majority of the changes were positive. So I just want more of that. So if we can do that for Killjoy and Snowstorm and Sam Hopkins. Yeah, Sam Hopkins.
I will say
I've been great for the game.
I've been playing a decent amount of Savage lately, so I've been using the Cultgeist there as well.
Oh,
I will say Shattering Surprise will like literally win you the game in a lot of situations because you just go, oh, cool, there's an ice pillar next to that ballot box. I'm going to Shattering Surprise, vote once, hooray, I win.
Yep, teleport Tubbies. Or you can deny voting as well with the stupid Gigants. I've done that before in like GG2, I think it was, with Symbols of Authority. That was so funny.
They're just flexible little models.
Oh, absolutely. But I was going to mention the teleporting Tubbies thingies. They have a model that also could use a buff, and I'm pretty sure you agree with that, Pete. Who do you want to talk
about? Are you going to talk about the Cyclops?
Oh, wow! I didn't even have to say it.
Yeah,
I tried to give this model a fair shake. It didn't work.
I mean, you gave it a fair shake. It didn't deliver.
Yeah,
correct.
That's the problem with the Cyclops. It's why Silent Ones are so good is that they have the built-in tome on Ice Pillar.
Yeah,
that would honestly that might be all it needs.
I would maybe putting that defense up 1. I would prefer, but
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but anyways, the Cultgeist is just solid.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys like the other minions, but I don't really ever see them.
There's only 2 good minions in December.
The Horcat and the Ice Dancers I've not really played too much.
They're fine summon.
I have played both, and here's what I have experienced. Horcats would have been amazing with Nimble. If these were the December answer to Corrupted Hounds, great. As it is, they were always 1 action too short to drop bombs. Like as a move 6 stealth model, they seem like, I put them on the flank to run, drop a bomb. Nowadays, they're 5 stones. For 3 more stones, I get a Blessed or I get Cedra.
Yeah.
And I don't die to everything.
Wow, that is shocking how much worse these are than the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the dogs are 3 stones.
Yeah, I mean, they're 5 stones. There's 6 wounds for 5 stones, which is not bad. But they don't. It's that lack of a bonus because they have Grim Feast. Yeah. They don't have another bonus action or effective third action, and this is a game where actions matter.
Yeah, if you give them Nimble, I think that would actually be just a simple fix to them.
It's a similar thing for the dancers. Ice dancers are 6 stones.
I did try these, and it's tough because they seem split between Performer and December too much, and then they aren't strong enough in either one to play.
Why do they have Grim Feast? Thematically, it makes no sense.
They're dancing. And
you've never gotten hungry while dancing?
I know I have.
You never just grabbed an ear off the ground and gone nom 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 nom.
Dude, let's go out to the food truck real quick.
Yeah, no, thematically, these are models that need to be reworked completely because thematically they make no sense.
If Ice Path were a bonus, or if they had something like their second edition version had something called like momentum, where because they were on ice, the more they moved in their activation, they would push at the end of their activation to represent like sliding. Something like that makes sense. As it is, it's a move 6 model. Don't mind me is nice, but it's a defense 5 move 6 model that has nothing stopping your opponent from going, oh, I'll shoot you twice. Butterfly jump, I guess, exists, but with no damage mitigation. That's like, Dixon, you were saying you could summon these. I think you summon one in, a diagonal deployment pool with power ritual, and you're like, I don't want to leave Blessed in the corner. I'll send one of these over there. I could see that being a reason you do it. But I also see better uses for my master's action than
I just
making an
wish
ice
they
damage.
could like power slide into like an ice pillar. Like if you could slide them like 8 inches to an ice pillar, that would be sweet.
Dude,
You can.
we have
They have that action.
no,
Yeah,
the
that's
action.
insane.
It doesn't quite work though, the action. So instead, I propose that we just make it a easier to cast whatchamacallit, backroom dealing, whatever the thing is that teleports you 12 inches normally.
Oh, secret passage or something.
Right, so instead of secret passage, make it an easier cast and make it that it's only with ice pillars. That way, if you have 2 ice pillars within 12 inches of each other,
You
she
know
can
what I
just
think
teleport through
I
them.
would like to see this. So I know you said Ice Path you would like better as a bonus, Jim. I
Mhm.
think it would be cool if you could power slide into an ice pillar and then have some kind of ranged ability to create an ice pillar and then slide into it like again, just so you get this cool like, almost like 12 to 16 just sliding displacement, moving ice pillars around. Like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing how Weird decides to address the keyword in the future.
Yeah.
Because,
And I don't even think
these
they work at
models,
all with Colette, so I don't even
Yeah,
really.
they're
yeah,
not.
that's the thing.
I get she's a dancer, but there's nothing about this model where I'm like, yeah, Colette, baby. Woo.
Yeah. Um, the only thing about minions that we haven't covered that I feel is worth covering is that the acolytes do have analyze weakness. Now, analyze weakness isn't a great action,
Summon model.
but it does mean that you can summon one of these in Raspi 2 and say, you do not get your armor or your shielded, and that's one of the ways to ensure that your hazardous damage pings are going through at full force.
Yeah.
Step
but
5 is the only thing that hurts it.
It is.
I mean, but if you're
It's-
summoning it, it's like, oh shoot, it didn't go off.
Yeah, well, I did it to you a couple of times and it never succeeded because you were like, hell no, I'm not going to let that go off.
That's true.
Oh, I'm sorry. There is another minion we haven't talked about.
Is there?
Ice Gammon. They belong to Sandeep. Do not hire them.
That's a Sandeep thing.
Again, I don't understand the whole elemental thing when you have such a cool theme with Wendigos, with the whole cannibalism monsters.
Well, I think that's just a relic of how the game's developed. I mean, as you remember, in second edition, in first edition, Raspi had the Ice Gammon and Golem as her like metal models.
As her box. Her box was two Gammon and a Golem.
Yeah, so I think as they've developed and added more of the Cult of December to her hiring pool, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird that they reworked her first version and not allowed her to summon Gammon. Like it just seems so odd.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
It would make sense because she was the original model to deal with Gammon. Anyway, but
yeah.
So never hire.
Yeah, I would never. I would hire this in teaching games.
Yeah, right.
Give people a chance.
I think what we'll do before we get into like what we think the keyword is good in this GG is Dixon, like Mancha Roja, your time is now. Tell us about Miranda and what you think she adds to some of these December crews that you're scheming in your mind.
Okay, so in the ideas that I have in my head, I'm trying to make Bash better because again, the experience that I had with Bash is that he wasn't going, his full potential. So Bear is the first thing that popped into my head, and Jim was like, "Really, Bear?" It's like, uh, but yeah, it's because he needs Heart of Wound. I think actually one of the podcasts, I forgot who it was that mentioned it, but they said it's like this bear needs to have Heart of Wound. And then I remember Andre saying the exact same thing about Teddy, because Teddy and Bash are very similar, except Bash has like 4 more health and not armor. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I love Miranda supporting Bash and also just Blessed of December. Oh, and also Cedra. So she supports all three of those models if you want to cram them in. But
correct.
she heals them. She gives them out of activation movement, which can be a charge. And then, oh yeah, by the way, she can turn into any beast that you just want to make into your crew.
Yes.
Oh,
Bear is great, but if they kill the
mhm.
Blessed December, she can turn into the Blessed December.
Yep.
Yeah. It is worth noting she cannot turn into Cedra and then thus
Correct.
into another sightless snow.
Yep.
They specifically did that so that we wouldn't try and do that.
Well,
Yep.
actually,
Yeah.
we've had that problem before, but the model that has that rule doesn't get used as often. You
Also,
know,
something you want to keep in mind with Miranda that a lot of people forget about is she does have accomplice.
Mhm.
So that's really good in a lot of situations. I'm just gonna say.
oh yeah, it's one of the number one reasons why you're gonna die if Marcus goes first. Like
Mhm.
that's how disgusting that is. Yeah.
So Dixon, that was your out of keyword / pick. Jim, do you have an out of keyword model or versatile model that you think goes well with December?
Shoo, boy, do I. I've got a couple. I legitimately have a few. Um,
Give
if
it
you
to us.
want me to, if you want me to stick it to one,
Well,
I'm going to go ahead.
give us the few you're thinking about, and then talk about
Okay.
one you're really jonesing about.
So I think Cassandra deserves consideration in either form of Rasputina.
Because of
I think
upstage.
upstage, yeah. More ice pillars, more healing. Um, the fact that you add in Breath of Fire and just she's a self-contained model. She can go do her own thing.
Yep.
Breath of Fire is such a good attack. And then you're adding in things like, oh, if I'm doing hazard damage and I'm doing this aura slow damage, now you're adding burning on that. Are they going to have the actions to assist off the burning, slam the pillars, attack you, and score points?
No.
That's the answer, is no. Um, I think that the Watchmen in general fit in well with Rasputina. I think isochronism, allowing them to gain shielded when, Raspi 2 hands out shielded like candy.
This is where I need to apologize to Lance. Lance had an angry man yelling at clouds incident yesterday when I brought 2 gearlings. And he's
Oh,
just like,
no.
I see these things in every Arcanist list, and it is such crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a real good thing that you can create ice pillars for them to watch Jane too.
And
You
also
Oh
know,
all the slow and
no.
stuff going out gives them
yeah,
slow, which they can use for a bonus action.
turning into an action. So slow is actually fast.
Yep.
Harris J5 pushes
Mm,
everyone around him,
mm,
which gives out shielded and
money.
Raspy 2. Um, Harrison himself, it doesn't see as much play anymore, but I think the ability to hand out focus with preparations to Raspy 1 is something that deserves more. I need to play around with it more
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest
because,
the biggest issue with him is instead of just removing the pass token, they made it symmetrical, and
right,
that is bad.
personally, I wouldn't even bother spending the pass token. I would just take him to give out focus to Raspy and then use gather intel to push pieces into position.
Right, but then you're giving it's a resource that you're giving your opponent that is a very powerful resource.
It is, but if they spend it, I get the initiative bonus. I'm not saying it's, amazing. I'm saying this is where I think he applies for Raspy.
Okay.
The last thing I want to highlight versatile wise, sorry for running roughshod over this section, but I think Soulstone miners are independent enough that they play well with Raspy. 2 reasons. One, you do have your 2 super flankers in the Blessed and Sightless Snow, Sightless Snow. But sometimes you need a model to just go in the back and drop scheme markers for breakthrough or espionage. And a Soulstone miner can do that for far cheaper than those models. And attuned on your Silent Ones and Raspy, having Soulstone use and having Soulstone cash on your 2 big beaters, you can burn through Soulstones very quickly with this crew. Having a source of them coming in is nice. And I don't think Sacrifice to December is reliable enough to generate the stones you need. That
Brody
said,
has a rule of thumb, Jim. I'd be curious if you agree with this.
What's that?
So Brody has a rule of thumb in Arcanist. If you have 8 soul stones, you should just hire like 8 soul stones after making your crew. Instead of having 8 left over, just hire a soul stone miner and just keep the 2, and you'll just build it up enough over time.
The only place I will disagree with that is if I'm going into a keyword that I know likes to do a heavy alpha.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm expecting a Leviticus catapulted in my face turn 1, I'll keep the stones for the block damage, which is putting them on negatives.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously you can't stop his irreducible damage. That was a bad example. If I'm expecting a Nikima in my face, yes, you can turn off. Both versions of Raspy can turn off attackers on her. But if you're expecting them to go after maybe something else that would use stones, in that instance, I'd like it up front.
Sure.
But otherwise, yeah, I think it's a pretty reasonable take to just pay 1 stone for a scheme runner over the course of the game.
A model that I haven't tried yet with Raspy that I think would be very interesting is actually Irina Keen. Because if you put an ice pillar next to her, she can remove it to get a positive. And she's got 2-4-5, which is really solid. She's also a cool tech if you want to ignore demise or hard to kill abilities. So I think she's a nice little tech model to go with Raspy.
That is a good shout.
Well, I was going to say Gearlings, but you stole them, and I was like, that was an obvious one. Let's get another one. The last part of the podcast here, let's talk about 2 things. One, what strats and schemes do we think Raspy's good into? And then finally, okay, we talked about all this stuff. How do you deal with her if you're going against Raspy? So me personally, I've found a lot of success with Raspy into Cloak and Dagger is one of them. And Ballots is also pretty good. So those are the 2. And actually, she does fairly well in Raid the Vault because she doesn't mind kind of guarding the back ones, but also maybe going to get some of the far ones. But I would say Cloak and Dagger and Ballots are probably the 2 I've had the most success with.
I don't know exactly what changed, but I did not like her in raids. Theoretically, I haven't actually tested this out. I think it's the schemes. Like something seems off about the schemes.
Yeah, personally, I don't think that the strategies in Gaining Grounds 4 are where I would determine Raspy over someone else. I would reach for Raspy based on the scheme pool and based on opponent faction.
Okay.
I
mean, I always... Yes. You said because...
Oh, and because just going down, we've covered Cloak and Dagger and Stuff the Ballots with Ice Mirror nonsense. Plant Explosives, you just give 2 bombs to Blessed and 2 bombs to Cedra, and you score 4 points. If you're really uncomfortable with it, take a Soulstone Miner and give it a bomb.
Or Miranda.
You've got so many ways to move models in this crew. Getting them over the side to drop bombs is not hard.
Yeah.
And with Raid the Vaults, your opponent's going to try and hold the center where you're putting your Ice Golem with his Hazardous Aura or putting Bash. Have fun.
Yeah, right.
And then if they do that, you just send, I don't know, Blessed to go grab one of those 2-point ones in the backfield and bully whoever they have being goalkeeper there.
Yep.
So, like, the strategies, I think she's fine. But, one thing, one thing we haven't talked about this entire podcast as far as her abilities go. No, we talked about it once. Scheme marker dropping. December does not do scheme marker tricks.
But they do now.
Sightless Snow does, but that's one bonus on one model who's already doing like so much work.
Yeah,
she has to get her
fair.
Shoulders worked out after.
So you're not looking at information overload or whatever the other one is.
Yeah, no, not information overload. Maybe ensnare, but that's like if you do that, you have to keep said Sightless Snow alive to get it. I much favor her in combat-based schemes. So, like,
I was going to say, hold up, deathbeds, obviously. I also like take prisoner because you can kidnap models pretty easily.
Yep. In your face is actually very, very good because you can make the list with that tops at 8 points, and it's a good list.
So, but I guess my question would be, are you then putting Rasputina in dangerous situations, or would you be leveraging being within 3 inches of the opponent's leader? Because you have to be close to score it.
You can do either or.
Yeah, it depends on what the sin. Take a drink. I said it depends, but because
Jim
I favor Rasputina.
A straight answer.
No. Okay, I'll give you a straight answer. You can actually do both. It's gonna be literally your opponent's gonna make a decision, and based exactly on that decision in the middle of the game, you're gonna be like, okay, now I'm gonna kidnap you instead. Oh, you activated a model, get over here. Oh, you're leaving the model that's hurt right next to your leader, die. So like, it's very, very clear once you're on the table, you're just gonna put them in a encrucijada. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like a version of a checkmate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at these schemes, there's 2 types that I'm looking at for Rasputina. I am looking at the kill-based ones, and I'm looking at the positional ones, right? So it's like sweating bullets sticks out to me, take prisoner, hold up. So I'm looking at either. I'm not basically the scheme ones, unless it's like ensnare, maybe. But other than that, it's like, okay, all those crazy scheme ones, I'm probably not taking.
Dude, hold up their forces and sweating bullets they're very, very doable. I'm sorry.
Yep.
With the title specifically, I don't know how you guys are going to do it with the original one.
I mean, you have Wendigo, so that's one engaged with a more expensive model free.
Correct.
If you keep them safe. But yeah, that's where I'm at on it.
I mean, it's a beast, so you can order it around. I'm sorry, and
no, you absolutely can.
Yeah, and Deadly Pursuit is in the keyword. There's a couple of models that have it. Again, as soon as Pete said sweat and bullets, I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot that was a scheme."
I don't think people are sweating bullets is actually an interesting scheme to me. I don't think enough people are trying it out yet. I don't know if they're scared of missing the first point, but I think especially for like Rasputina, I think it's very doable.
Yeah. So far, I've been very happy whenever I pick it.
Yeah, I've actually started to enjoy sweating bullets quite a bit.
Yeah. The one I'm struggling is In Your Face, which shockingly, I thought it was going to be a lot easier. But the fact that it's non-master also hurt my soul.
Well, In Your Face, the problem is always the second point, right? Because if you lose that expensive model, or in a game I played, I was playing Euripides against Trevor's Anya crew, and Corvus Rook had to score the second point, but I just avalanched him twice, got him out of there. He didn't score it.
Now, I usually build the list on purpose with like multiple models with the same high cost.
Sure. Well, he did, but I killed one of them.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, that's one of those where having the ability to freeze people in place with Raspi 2 and push them, that's another example of that being a really good use of that skill.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of funny because like that trigger that we were talking about in the title, that you freeze somebody in place like you're mentioning right now, has a lot of utilities if the model has already activated. Because you can position the ice pillar in such an annoying way that if you want to rescue that model, there's like no way you're getting that model out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I did that to you too, right, Dixon? I forget if it was what's her face? Your henchman for Vix.
Yes, you did that to Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. I chained her to an ice block over, and it was just outside of 2 inches of the rate of the vault marker, so she couldn't even score that.
So I had shrug off, but I had no cards to discard, and he slowed me.
Yeah.
Just so you understand how terrible.
Oh.
Like it's like he put me in a checkmate. And I was like,
sit down.
Yep.
All right. So we've been talking about Raspy in December. Lots of, especially when these boxes get released, I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of her. So how do you counter, or what should you do when you go against a crew like December?
So Dixon, you called it out early.
Correct.
Marker removal
is
the first and most important thing.
Yeah, it is. It will make you lose the game if you don't have a plan to remove ice pillars.
Oh, yeah.
If the person playing Rasputina is good and playing ice pillars. Like when I mean playing ice pillars, I don't mean like, oh, I cast an ice pillar here and there. It's like no, making it so that I will make a fortress of ice, and there's no freaking way that you're gonna win. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the next thing is we've kind of really been hyping up Blessed, Cedra, Bash, and these are all these like Dixon, they're beater schemers.
Correct.
And that's why they're so successful. I think bringing your own beater schemer and trying to play who's better on the flank. Because I think when you have something like, not to pick on green, but Archie or Manos going up against a Blessed of December, suddenly the Blessed's not as favored, I think.
Yeah. Right.
And if you can put pressure on those two models that are scoring points, it's kind of doing the same thing Raspy's doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking the Raspy player, okay, your two models that can actually get out and get you points are now busy. What are you going to do about it?
Yep. Archie is actually like a shockingly easy model to deal with Raspy. Even though you can't put any conditions on him, you can pin him down. You can push him away. He's only stat 4. Doesn't matter what you do to him.
You can.
He's just so silly model.
Yeah, there's something that I think is, when we talk about marker removal, I think it's important that sometimes you want to go out a keyword, but also sometimes you just want to be like, oh yeah, I have this model that does X with markers. This is a good matchup for it. And a good example of that for me is always Mancha Roja. Like I almost never play Mancha, and he can use markers to get extra effects and all this other nonsense. I'm not saying I'd bring him every time, but the other counter that I would say is really good against Raspy specifically is if you can bring models, or if your crew has the ability to flex into a mode that just ignores ice pillars. So maybe you have Incorp, or maybe you have a lot of flying models in your keyword, or you have leaps or actions that give you places where you can just like circumvent it. I think those keywords do very good against Raspy because they're just like, yeah, I don't care about this. I'm going over there.
So
absolutely,
that is absolutely true. We talked about Keen and models like that. It's kind of funny though that you said Mancha when the emissary, the lucky emissary, is literally right there, and it's like the most.
Yeah, I was just using it as an example in keyword. Obviously, if you're playing Bayou, you just bring either like Gluttony or you bring the emissary, and you're just getting profit for them putting stuff down. So,
oh, absolutely! Like literally, the emissary alone will just ruin anything.
That shatters of ice just flying in the air.
Everything is just gone. In Outcast, though, since we're talking about Infamy, there's 3 models, but you only ever see Mad Dog, even though the Draken Trooper is not bad.
Oh yeah, I've done Draken.
I don't understand the hate for Draken Trooper. That model has done work for me,
dude.
Yeah.
Also, talking about annoying models that are minions, those Rocketeers and their bonus can die in a fire.
Draken Trooper has literally the exact same.
It's the same, yeah. And no, Rocketeers are great models. When I was on my really brief Tull stint, I love those models.
Do you guys think Guild has a pretty good matchup into Raspy because of the removal? They can take care of armor. They have laugh off.
They have guns.
So
So literally, if you play Guild, you want to see Raspy. That's how sad that is.
So I'll say this: I agree that Guild can be favored into Raspy, but I think it's more for the layered defenses and denial aspects that are countering her own denial aspects more so than the guns.
Okay.
Yes, the good guns that you end up bringing and ignore all the terrain stuff anyway. And you're not actually going to see snowstorm, so you don't have to worry about the
unless
middle of the
Jim.
storm.
Jim will bring
Unless
it.
you're playing me, in which case, gotcha.
Well, we've talked about
But-
that many times. That's a
Yeah.
bet. You're betting. You're basically both you and your opponent are like, are you going to bring the thing that's going to screw me over?
Yeah. But the thing is, Guild has you have John Watson, who, despite his treatment, apparently, at least in the Kiwi land, is getting really
Yes.
great use.
I
He'll
mean,
eat whatever your big beater is.
yeah.
Um,
No, the nerfs were not over exaggerated as we thought.
yeah. The thing that is coming to mind for me that is not specific to Guild, but as another counter to Rasputina, and this might be specific to Raspy 1, but I think it applies to 2 as well. Distracted spam.
Yeah.
This is another kind of taxing thing, but I played Jesse's Anya a little bit ago with Raspy, and he got Winston next to Raspy, and he started interacting with, I think it was the voting strat. So he was just scoring the strat and distracting Raspy.
Yep.
And suddenly Raspy's like, I can't actually give you slow anymore because I'm on negatives to everything I do.
And
suddenly my main disruption piece isn't working.
It's pretty good.
So she is a greedy master. She takes resources from you, and she has to be a focal point of your strategy.
Yep.
So if she is disrupted, you're going to suffer for it.
Yeah. It's so weird. Again, she's so close to being an A tier master.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're a newer player, I think playing against Rasputina is actually a good keyword to practice against, because as a new player, I think they struggle a lot of times at some of that countering aspect and figuring out, how do I beat my opponent's, what he's bringing or she's bringing. So I think for a new player, Raspy's an easy one a lot of times, because it's like, okay, I need to deal with ice pillars. So you just, okay, how do I take care of this?
Yep.
So I actually think that's good for new players to kind of get used to a crew like Raspy, so they can get used to countering a small part of the game.
She is getting a lot of games in GG4.
Oh, dude, if you go to the Arcanist Discord on the Weird Discord, if you go on that Arcanist page, I swear every other day is all of a sudden just Raspy nonsense, which I'm okay, which I love, but there's a lot of people liking her right now.
Yeah, because
you're on Longshanks, right?
Yeah, she has a 62% win rate. The title does.
Original recipe is at
48%. 48.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they're still both around 50%. That's where you want a master to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Raspy 2, again, because of the little number, we can't just say that she is exact C's at 62. Mm-hmm. But that is a great, point of reference. You're like, okay, so we know that she's doing well. That's fine.
Yeah.
Is she OP? I don't know. No. I haven't seen. I think
she has the tools to be successful if you get your reps with her, and you'll have to get used to the counters, though. Like you said, Dixon, people are going to counter you, so you have to learn how to play around those.
Well, I think we actually said it. The title doesn't actually need that many ice pillars.
The important thing, she can create one with her bonus and then get 3 master APs with that.
Yeah, and because she does everything within her own activation and doesn't need that many ice pillars, when people are taking into her, it's just lost points, like we talked about it earlier.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny. It all fits together. She's winning more than the original title.
Though, right? Like, the title should be different enough where you have to plan differently. Like, if I think you're going to play the title, I have to play very different than if you're playing the first version of Raspy.
I wonder if eventually people will be like, yeah, they're not gonna play the first one, and then you play the first one, and
Oh, if you play against me with Raspy, you're probably 80% of the time seeing the first version.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I know most other people, it's probably flip flop. They're probably bringing the title more. But I love that original version. It's my jam.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I think this is one of the success stories of the Madness.
Yeah,
Was it Madness where the titles came out?
I believe so.
Yes.
But yeah, so I do. It has been my experience that being able to audible between the two titles and the different ways they play has enhanced my ability to play the keyword at competitive events and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get good at your keyword more now than ever because of titles.
Wrapping this thing up, Jim. I don't know if there's anything you want to share or put out there for the world to check out.
There is actually. If you haven't heard, the good fellas over at Danger Planet are having an event July 19th through the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Danger Planet GT.
Cash prize, if I remember right.
There is, but it's more than that.
Yep.
So the whole event,
the friends we make along the way.
Yeah, well, it's the friends we make along the way. But the whole thing is, all proceeds are going to a local animal shelter, and they're having a bunch of board games and activities that are not just Malifaux, but
Right.
the flagship event is a Malifaux tournament. Yours truly is on the TO team helping to run it. So you won't have to play me and my Raspy if you come.
You won't see Snowstorm.
Shoot, if I had her, I'd play her.
But no, it's looking like it's going to be a phenomenal event. If you have questions, reach out to me or reach out to the Danger Planet folks on their Discord. We would love to see you.
Awesome. Dixon, anything to share, my friend?
No, I had a lot of fun talking about this. It makes me want to play her again.
I got messages after I said we were recording about this. They're like, Pete, I can't afford you doing a Raspy episode.
One thing I do want to throw in there at the very end here, two things, actually. One, thank you for having me on. It's always great to talk about Malifaux with you guys.
Yep. Always
Two,
love having you on. Gentleman Jim, as we like to say.
On the subject of people who don't want to, who can't afford an episode on Raspy, those new sculpts are so fun to paint.
They are.
If you're not sold on playing her by listening to this, the hobby side of this crew is just perfect. So get the wallet out.
Yep. I would say I don't like the original Blessed of December sculpt, but I do love that Luther sculpt. It is a creepy hair.
I mean, it's kind of weird
that eats children.
In GG in M1E in the first edition, you saw titties left and right. And
oh yeah, this thing still has boobs on it. I was like,
exactly.
Are those hairy boobs?
Yeah. So the fact that the new sculpt still has it, I'm like, is this a relic? What?
That's the second edition sculpt. That is the second edition sculpt.
Yeah.
Weird has gone in different directions with their aesthetics and design, and that's all I'm going to say on that.
Yep. Well, I think with that being said, we're going to roll up out of here, and until next time, make sure that you guys are flipping cards and flipping tables, and we will see you all later.